Galamdyq-sheshim. Am I getting this correct?
Yes.
Very well. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
So we might as well start. Hello. Thank you very much for joining us for this presentation today. We will have a slightly different format in that people, our hostesses, who usually help us to make this presentation, to make these video conferences. We won't have them today because, as we all know, the pandemic, the second wave of pandemic hit Kazakhstan very hard. And basically their help has been required somewhere else. It will be just me. And today I will have three wonderful persons. My colleagues from the university, from McGill University, from Montreal, Quebec, Canada, and I will introduce them formally. It is Dr. Sarah Loy, who is Director of the Department of Language and Intercultural Communication at McGill University School of Continuing Studies. Sarah received her PhD in second language education from New York University and has taught both English and teaching English as a second language, abbreviated TESL. Correct me if I'm wrong.
You're right.
In the States, in the United States, and she also taught in Japan and Canada. So she has quite a lot of international experience. Sarah's research interests include second language writing pedagogy, generous theory, and oral feedback on writing. It's a very complicated topic. I'm reading this and I have no clue what that means, but it sounds very scientific and very languagey. The second person is Effie Jakopoulos, who is a full-time faculty at McGill University School of Continuing Studies. She is also currently holding the position of Senior Academic Partnerships Advisor. Prior to this position, she was Associate Director of the Language and Intercultural Communication Unit for 5 years. And before that, she was Program Coordinator for a number of English for specific and professional purposes programs, such as medical EFL, English as Foreign Language, for nurses, and French for the health sector. She also spearheaded the conception, creation, and delivery of the award-winning Anglais Santé, I'm pronouncing this in French, English for Healthcare and English program, which has trained over 6,000 healthcare professionals in Quebec. And the third person joining us for this video conference is Julia Mercury Albisi, who has extensive experience in teaching English as a second foreign language in academic and professional programs at McGill University. She has participated in the academic coordination and promotion of the aforementioned Anglais Santé program, funded by the Government of Canada's Health Ministry. Julia's passion is driven by improving on virtual face-to-face, or otherwise synchronous online methodology, and advancement in asynchronous e-learning. I thank the three of you for joining us for this conference, and I look forward to our discussion on this interesting topic. And I will admit that I will play a little bit of a role of a skeptical reviewer. I will try to undermine all of your statements and suggestions, so please don't mind. I'm not that mean, I just for the purpose of our conversation. So welcome to our video conference, and as I said, our audience look forward to you explaining the intricacies of learning English to begin with, and learning English remotely or online. That's a whole another issue. So shall we begin? I have a couple of questions ahead of our presentation. So I would like to maybe each of you, or maybe one of you, to address these questions. And as I said, I will try to be as skeptical as I can. And so my first question is along the lines, can one of you, or maybe all of you, express your perception of the importance of learning English right now? Every country, virtually every country in the world, is being hit by the pandemic. So why would we not have other acute priorities? For example, the healthcare system, the public health priorities. Why would we need to learn English, invest time and resources?
I think I'll take that question, Nurlan. Thank you. I'm glad you asked because, you know, of course we feel that learning language is always important, but I think especially now, as you point out, the pandemic, it's a global crisis. It's affecting every country. Medical professionals are being called on to, you know, contribute and collaborate. And, you know, for that, we need some kind of common understanding. We need some kind of common language. English is an international language. Many medical professionals already do understand and use English. So even more now, I think it's actually an imperative to improve our ability to communicate and to work together to find solutions to this pandemic. And on the other hand, you know, many of us have been locked down. Our mobility is reduced. You know, I'm working from my home. I know my colleagues are as well. So there's a little bit of a forced, you know, time at home. So even though we're busy working, we're not traveling internationally. And so in a sense, it's a good time that we have this time to devote to learning a language. Increased availability of language learning online or remotely makes that possible from home. As a matter of fact, I'm also taking advantage of this time to improve my French, another international language. But so I would say in answer to your question, it's not a luxury, it's more important than ever in this time.
And I would just like to add that if somebody were to take a course remotely that would bring them into contact with other healthcare professionals from other countries, there could be a sharing of knowledge. At the same time, they'll be improving their English, using their English, being corrected in the way that their English is being used, all the while speaking about very relevant and current topics, such as treatment and issues and medication and so on. So it could be used to one's advantage, that yes, healthcare professionals are needed in hospitals and healthcare centers, but as Sarah said, they might have a little bit more time at home or sometime somewhere where they can connect with others and use the language and share the knowledge. So it may be to someone's advantage, actually, if they have a little bit of extra time to do this now.
Julia, would you like to?
Sure. Well, the way I see it is we all have our expertise in whatever field it might be, but without communication and the sharing of this expertise, there's a gap. So definitely learning a language, be it English, Chinese, Russian, whatever the language might be, these are things that we really need to hone in on and really learn how to use language to communicate effectively on issues that matter globally. And in this case, it's English that we're promoting. But as I said, it's language in general is important.
I've noticed a specific term, remote learning, which I believe we'll address later. In this context, in the context of our discussion, since we addressed the current pandemic several times, prior to the live session, we conversed a little bit on evidence-based medicine. The problem with the current pandemic is we barely have hard evidence of what is work apart from the measures that have been implemented during the Spanish flu pandemic back in 1918. We have very little evidence that something really works, and I believe that jointly by having the ability of reading the literature, original literature, and most of the literature is published in English these days, and having the ability of aggregating or synthesizing, there is a specific terminology, knowledge synthesis. The ability of synthesizing this information will help any healthcare system in any country. That's my firm belief, because not even a country as big as the United States can solve this pandemic on its own. That means it implies the need for international cooperation, and as you mentioned, video conferences and discussion with your colleagues, and that in turn implies that we will be conversing in using English. I wish we could converse in all possible languages, but in this regard, it's interesting because Zoom offers some sort of a paid version or extra paid version where we get subtitles in the language of preferences. I would be curious about what you think about this, because my take on that is it is machine translation, and I checked some of the machine translate. It's really bad with terminology. If we're conversing about some weather, sport, it's okay, but once we start conversing about medicine, it's very inaccurate, and I would be scared of using this straight and bringing it to patient, because who knows how it will be translated. Could you please comment on this machine translation and a limitation of machine translation?
Yeah, for sure. That's an excellent point. I wasn't aware that Zoom had that feature. I think it can be useful to a degree, like any kind of machine translation, any kind of AI enabled communication. It can be good in a crunch. As you said, I think it's probably not quite there yet for very specialized terminology and very high stakes, especially communication. The other thing about machine translation is that in order to really take advantage of it, you have to have a certain proficiency in that language in order to be able to judge how accurate is this translation. If you don't have that intuition, you don't have the baseline proficiency to make the call, you could be misinterpreting, you could be misrepresenting. So I agree. I think it could be useful, but it depends on having a certain level of understanding already to be able to make the use critical judgment.
Okay, and since we talked about sitting at home and learning foreign languages, I believe that one thing, learning foreign language for fun, so that I can converse, I can go to, I don't know, Spain. One day it will be pandemic free. I can travel to wonderful Madrid or Barcelona and converse. Yeah, soon. But another thing is, I am applying, for example, to a formal program, and I will have to reach specific, I have to get specific marks in my English exams. So what do you think? Is it possible to learn foreign language structured through online classes? And I know that people, I often get the vibe that people prefer to work with the teacher on a one-on-one basis or in a small group, because with online classes, there have to be a lot of self-organizing skills, because online classes, it will be basically me, myself, and I who will be governing the learning process. So can each of you elaborate from your own experience as teachers about advantages and potentially disadvantages of online classes? And then if you can explain what remote and online, what's the difference? Is it the same or is it different? Thank you.
Absolutely. Good questions, Nurlan. There's a lot to unpack there. Let me try to address all the points. So one question I think was the difference between a structured course, whether online or not, versus informal language learning. And I think you already mentioned right there, they can both be productive, they can both be effective, but in a structured class, you get a lot more, let's call it motivation, to stay on track, to turn things in. Whereas if it's very informal, it can be easy to just say, oh, I'll just study a little bit today, and then, oh, but I'm too busy today. And it can be fun and relaxed, which is good. But sometimes the structure of a program with a teacher there to, who has laid out assignments that they know are going to be effective, they give you structured feedback, to have deadlines, to have formal evaluation, for sure, that's going to lead to better results. So that's the formal versus the informal. I think you were also asking about whether it's possible to learn languages in an online format, online classes. And the answer is absolutely yes, of course. It does, like any specific format, if it's going to be a small group, if it's going to be in person, if it's going to be online, they all have certain advantages and potential drawbacks. So each individual has to understand what they're looking for and what's going to work for them. So the big, huge benefit of online classes is, of course, the convenience. In an online format, the content of the course has been designed by a professional educator, by a teacher, but has been designed so that the learner can access the content and do their work at a time that's convenient for them. So for busy professionals, that can be, very, very beneficial. The drawback is, of course, as you mentioned, it's me, myself, and I. You have to have a certain level of motivation. Now, typically in an online class, it's not that you're completely on your own. You are followed by an instructor. It's just that you access the content, you study, you do your work on your own time. So it requires you to be, somewhat organized, somewhat committed. But usually there will be a teacher there to check in on you, to make sure that you're doing what you need to do, and to answer questions. So that's online. Now at McGill, and I guess most places, we make a distinction between online courses, which is what I just talked about. So the content it's there, it's online, you access it when it's convenient for you, you submit your assignments, you get feedback. But we make a distinction between online and remote. So remote learning is similar to a traditional classroom, in that you have class at a certain time, you have a teacher who is there, you have classmates who are there with you, but there happens to be on Zoom or some other kind of video conferencing platform. So the advantage to this, of course, is that, like in a traditional setting, you have a lot of real-time interaction. And we know that interaction is really key. It's motivating, and it gives you a chance to use language, to hear other people, and to communicate for real purposes. So that's really great. Unlike the online format, you have to be present at a certain time. You got to log in, you got to be committed to attending that class. When you're part of a remote class, it's not just all about you. You're part of a class, so you're committing to show up, to be part of that learning community, and do your part. Many people find that for learning a language, it's more interesting, it's more motivating to do it with other people. So in that sense, the remote format is really great. And if there are any silver linings at all to this pandemic and all the shutdown, I think it's really prompted a lot of people to put energy into delivering quality remote instruction, not just for language, but for all other things. And for learners as well, it's given them the opportunity to try this format, and to be surprised at how effective it can be. I can actually take part in a class from my dining room. I can meet other people from around the world. I can improve my English. I can learn new things, even if I'm not going to travel to Canada, for example. So I'm not sure if I've answered all of your questions. That's the kind of what the difference between online and remote. And we, in our department, we offer both online and remote learning so that people can, you know, take advantage of the benefits of both of those things. I'm not sure if either of my colleagues wants to add to what I've said.
Yes, and I totally agree, Sarah. And I just wanted to add that online learning is simply another delivery mode
Right.
of instruction or of learning, right? It all depends on how well the course is structured, whether it's online or remote or face-to-face in a classroom. If a course is structured poorly, the outcome will most likely be poor. So it doesn't matter if it's online. If the course is well structured and the students are motivated and the course engages the student and does offer some structure where there are some timelines so that the student feels there are goals to achieve and that somebody is on the other side of the screen, even though they don't see them face to face, at least they feel they're somewhat supported. And we'll talk about the program that we created a little bit later on to give you an example of what I'm saying. So I guess what I'm saying here is that it doesn't matter if it's an online course. If it's well structured, the effects should be the same and should be positive.
Mm.
Sorry, I don't have much more to add. I think Sarah and Effie really covered all of the main points. But I can say that as an instructor, teaching remotely has really given me a new perspective on teaching and the delivery of content. Of course, organization, time management, all of these things matter on site or remote, but there is a different feeling to the remote part of it. And as technology is becoming better and we are learning more and more and different players are involved, I see this as a very progressive move to be able to delve into this direction. I'm really in favor of online learning and remote classes, simply for the reason that the technology is there and we now have to really embrace it, learn how to use it effectively, and really improve on our goal of just teaching language and proper communication. So that's about it.
How big would be a remote class on average
well, we have different class sizes, but for perhaps this program, maybe 15 students in a class would probably be about on average, I would say. What do you think, Sarah, Effie?
Yes, I think 15. Ideally, 15 would be the maximum. It doesn't always work out that way. Sometimes it could go up to 17, 18, sometimes as low as 12, which is great. But yes, I agree.
So what if there are 15 people and say 13 of them are super fast learners and 2, what's the proper, how to say it politically correct, would have these struggles. So how to address this so that remote is, so you can't, there is no, what I find in remote or online, it's the lack of nonverbal communication, which apparently is very important. We underappreciated this because we never were so much online or for example, I want to communicate to someone that, let's say to my coworker, that I am slightly upset about her performance, but I don't want to make it in a verbal form not aggravate the situation. So non-verbal is kind of lost, don't you think? And how do you deal with this in your, let's say, teaching? How to make sure that every class will continue on the same pace, even though there could be people who would have literally struggles of understanding the topic of each class.
I'll start, and then if Julia or Effie want to jump in, I'll welcome that, especially Julia, because she has a lot of teaching experience and in a remote format as well, much more than I do. But again, I think there are two kind of main issues here. In terms of students who progress at different paces, well, that happens in every single classroom. So, you know, that's just our bread and butter, is how to support each student at their pace. And that could be students who are struggling. They obviously need more support. Our teachers do that all the time, but it's also students who are excelling and who need, you know, extra challenge so that they're not bored. So our teachers do that all the time. Of course, we also assess students' level before we place them in a class to minimize the chance that there will be a wide gap between students. So we give placement tests that will give us an idea of what level of class is going to be best for each student. And then, of course, you deal with the variation. I think your question about nonverbal communication is really interesting. I hadn't thought about that, but you're right. And I think that's sort of what they're saying now is contributing to Zoom fatigue, that we're all on Zoom all the time now. And it seems as though it should be just the same as face-to-face, but it's not exactly. And that kind of contributes to a little feeling of malaise or fatigue if we do it too much. You know, as to how to address that, I'm not sure. I think that's probably an emerging research area. On the other hand, I would say the fact that we're all now doing Zoom all the time means that this is going to be a new normal channel of communication, that where new norms of verbal and nonverbal communication will emerge. And therefore, we actually all need to adapt to this, and we need to, you know, optimize verbal and nonverbal communication for Zoom. So actually, in that sense, remote classes are a great opportunity to be to hone those skills, right? How do you effectively communicate when you're on Zoom, when you're not face-to-face, and you don't have the same normal tools in your toolkit available, I'd say.
And that leads me to my next question. And my next question was actually my very first question that I got when I was introduced to your program, and that's actually the basis of my, I would say, of my plain skepticism in this session. Medicine is very difficult to be taught online. People struggle, people try to use simulation, people try to use scenarios, but medicine has to be taught in the presence of a patient, or at least someone who plays a scenario of a patient and an instructor, because there is lots of handling, there is lots of intervention, especially if it comes to an intervention. And I know that your program can be customized to have to address different health professionals, not just physicians, but also nurses and even medical receptionists. Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, but as I said, medicine is something that I view as very hard topic to teach online. Medical English on top of this, wouldn't you see an extra layer of complexity?
Well, perhaps, and for this again, I'll lean more on my colleagues because they have more hands-on experience with the very program that we're talking about today. But I would say that we have, you know, the program that we could customize and could offer to your group has been offered online and remotely to healthcare professionals throughout Quebec in the regions. And so they're very skilled at handling this exact scenario. And keep in mind that we don't teach medicine, we don't teach social work.
Thank you. Yeah.
We don't teach health administration. We are not experts in that and would never pretend to be. So we have, in the development of these courses, we have relied on subject matter experts to make sure that that aspect is accurate, is realistic, and we handle just the language part.
Okay.
Thank you, Sarah, for saying that, because, and I just want to reinforce that in the Anglais Santé program, there is definitely a clear understanding that instructors are not to teach the profession, but the language that is used in the profession. So there's a very clear delineation between the two things. So thank you, Sarah, for saying that.
Effie? Any comment from you?
Yes, maybe this would be a good time to introduce the program, since we've been talking about Anglais Santé. Our viewers have no idea what we're talking about.
Yes.
About 7 years ago, we were approached by the provost's office. We at the School of Continuing Studies, Language and Intercultural Communication, to see whether we can create a program for healthcare professionals in Quebec that would be flexible and accessible. Those were the two key words. And if our program proposal didn't address those two main issues, we wouldn't be considered. So we came up with the concept of this Anglais Santé program, which means English health, but it's shortened for Anglais pour le milieu de la santé, English for healthcare. And what, yes?
I'm so sorry to interrupt. I just want to interject here to make sure that our audience understands that in Quebec, the official language is French. Although we are within Canada, which is a bilingual country, it has two official languages, English and French. In Quebec, the only official language is French. And outside of Montreal, it's the majority language spoken, well, in Montreal as well. And so that's why we're talking about delivering English language training program in Canada. It's because the province we live in is primarily French speaking. Sorry.
No, thank you, Sarah.
But to confuse our audience even more, McGill is a bilingual university, so you can write your thesis in either official languages of Canada.
Yes. Absolutely.
Just to confuse them more.
Yes,
yeah.
And just to add to Sarah's point, the Ministry of Health, Health Canada, has a program that sponsors French courses and programs for the rest of Canada, for its francophone, for its population, and that's it. And English programs in Quebec. So we were funded, but we were chosen by Health Canada to create a program that addressed the needs of the Quebec healthcare professionals. And we created 3 professional development certificates: English for healthcare, English for social services, and English for frontline healthcare administration. Now, the certificates belong to McGill University. Mm-hmm. Up until now, we've only delivered them to this particular clientele in Quebec. But we are happy to say that we're now opening the door to anybody who would be interested in taking our programs, because we've already received 2 awards, and Julia has been instrumental in that. She's been amazing part of the creation of the program, its development, its delivery. She's helped coordinate it. And she can attest to the fact that over the last 6 years, because it took us about a year or so to create these certificates, over the last 6 years, we've trained over 6,000 people who have been very satisfied, and they've been coming back to us for more training. And we've done this remotely throughout the province of Quebec. We've been dealing with, we started with 16 regional administrations, and now I believe we're up to 25 regional administrations throughout the province. We've had our challenges with Zoom and other delivery modes, but after doing it for so long, we've been able to iron out all the kinks, and we feel very confident and everything runs smoothly. in the beginning, we were wondering the same thing, Nurlan. How can an online course really help people reach their goals? Because they need this to be able to talk to their patients, and they have to understand the patients. They have to be able to explain things. There's nuance, there's nonverbal communication. We considered all of that in the design. And we worked with healthcare professionals from the order of nurses and the order of social workers, who actually vetted everything we created to make sure that it followed the protocols of the Quebec Ministry of Health and the Canadian Ministry of Health. Because I'm sure you are aware that here we have a two-tiered system in a way. The federal government acts as coordinator for the whole country, giving funds to each province, and each province has the freedom to manage its own healthcare system, of course, in collaboration with the federal. So we had to satisfy both levels of government in terms of what we were doing. And so what we incorporated in our design was a lot of quizzes and feedback. So, and Julia will explain the program in a few minutes, but we have a section that addresses general English that is essential for everybody. And then we have another section that pertains specifically to either healthcare or social work or healthcare administration. And those are videos. So in the videos, we were able to address nonverbal communication issues, cultural issues, and specific terminology and protocols, actually. So we're very pleased with the way the program has evolved. Of course, we have course evaluations at the end of every semester, and we take all the comments very seriously, and we adapt, we make changes and corrections. So after 6 years, we've reached a good level. I think we're very confident with what we offer. And of course, to address the conversation part of the course, we felt the online wouldn't be enough. We'd need at least a few hours in the program dedicated to face-to-face interaction. And so this program has an online component, which is self-instructional, supported by a tutor. So if a student has a question or a problem, they could email or even call the tutor assigned to that course. So they're supported throughout. And then there's the conversation course, in which a small group of students, up to, we would like up to a maximum of 15. And so far we've managed that, that meet once a week with an instructor. And that's the part that's tailored to specific group needs. So these healthcare professionals bring their questions to the class and say, well, I spoke to a patient this week and this is what I said. Was that the correct way to say it? Was there a better way to say it? Should I have said something completely different? Was it culturally wrong to say it that way? So that's the forum where all these questions could be addressed and answers tailored to specific needs.
And Effie, I just want to jump in again, because just to make clear, I think everybody is clear, but when you say that they meet, this is the remote part. Yes. So this is via video conferencing. So they meet face to face, but not in the same place. So they're joining from wherever they are, their homes or their workplaces or wherever.
Exactly, yes.
But not, if I understand correctly, this program has a built-in component for feedback or instant rectification on whatever mistakes or whatever unclarity on the part of the student. There could be an instructor, teaching assistant, I would call probably, can quickly interject and correct.
Absolutely.
Am I summarizing this correctly?
Yes. If you're talking about the online component, the one that's asynchronous and self-instructional, yes. It's not, the feedback isn't instant. We allow 24 hours.
Well, I mean, instant is, it's not like next year. It's
that's it. They have 24 hours and they'll
exactly.
get a reply within 24 hours. But the course, the conversation course that's taught remotely, that's virtual through Zoom or other means,
Right,
usually it's Zoom, there's an instructor. That's an instructor, a teacher that teaches the class, and then there is instant feedback in that part of the course.
Great.
So I think that's what I wanted to contribute as a segue into what Julia will show you. We have some examples, and I'll pass it over to you and Julia now.
So Nurlan, I sent you a short video of how the online course looks with a voiceover. So if you could just play that, and then I could proceed by explaining how the conversation course works.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I will switch to. Okay. Yeah, trying to, don't worry, we'll edit out this this brief pause. I'm trying to, okay, let's see. If I go like this and if I go like that, will it?
I think I faintly hear Julia's voice in the background, but I don't see anything. Do you see a video?
No. I think, Nurlan, it helps before sharing, open the file.
Yes,
and
I did.
then
Okay.
and then click share.
I did. It's
Oh,
open.
you did?
Yeah, and one way how to do this is to edit, just put this, embed this in the final video. We will just continue. I opened this.
Do you want me to try maybe? I don't know if I'll be successful on my end.
Yeah, okay, maybe.
Let me see. I'm going to open my file first. And then if you could give me sharing privileges, I hope it'll work. Just so you know, I have been having some issues with my laptop. So
I'll put you as a.
Oh, hold on. Oh dear. Okay, let me just. Okay. Sorry, just give me a moment. I'm working with 3 screens and it's a computer that has been giving me some difficulties.
But we'll embed the video.
Yeah, we could. I mean,
yeah.
Everyone knows the online in this particular group, so that shouldn't be a problem. All right.
So we'll just pretend we have.
Oh, that was so interesting.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, so would you follow this video with your explanation? What's?
Well, I actually explained the entire online
Structure.
format, the structure, the organization. And I did a quick, you know, I went into all of the different lessons and explained why they're there and so on. So
How long is the video, Julia?
it's 6 minutes.
6 minutes, yeah.
6 minutes. Yeah.
But then my other question would be, suppose someone would want to have, would want to go to study at, say, McGill, or maybe some other English-speaking university. There is normally a prerequisite, someone who whose high school or pre-university education was not in English, is obliged to take a formal test. It could be IELTS or TOEFL is together test of English as foreign language, test of English as foreign language. Is it, am I getting this correct? TOEFL?
Yes, TOEFL or IELTS. Yeah, those are.
Yes, and you are supposed to pass those formal tests to be able to study in an English language university. Again, if your school education or pre-university education was not in English. So my question is, someone who would go to say do a master's degree in social sciences, I guess, or faculty of arts. That's when they educate social workers, and how helpful would be for these, I guess, potential students, trainees, that they take the course that you offer.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a good question. And in terms of those English language proficiency requirements, it's not so much passing. It's, you know, you take the test and you get a certain score that demonstrates where you are on the continuum. And each university, I mean, they're usually similar, but each university is going to determine which level is necessary to succeed at their school. And at McGill, for example, the IELTS score required, I believe, is 6.5.
Academic module.
Sorry?
It's called academic module because they also have different modules. IELTS has different modules.
Oh, I see. Sorry.
So
yeah.
6.5 in the specific module, academic module.
Right. And other tests can be used as well. So the courses that we're talking about are not test preparation courses. They're really designed for more real success in real life interactive situations. In this case, in medical situations. And that's the beauty of them, is that they're designed specifically for healthcare professionals who want to improve their real use of English. However, we do have in our unit, we offer lots of other English language courses, including some that specifically do lead to certificates that McGill University accepts as proof of English language proficiency. So, you know, if students were interested in that, if they felt that their English language proficiency was not up to the level required to be accepted to McGill, we have options available that can help them to reach that level.
Okay, I think that's important because we want to, I'm sorry, we want to have a solution for people who come not just from Kazakhstan, maybe from neighboring countries as well, but whose first or a school education is not in English. And if we can, they would go to McGill for the primary, with the primary goal to be educated or trained in healthcare professions. And if this can be associated with a certificate through your program, that would be even much more convenient, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to add, Nurlan, that what our programs do, all three of them, the healthcare, social services, and healthcare administration, is ensure that students have the minimum level required for them to do either an observership or an internship at the healthcare facilities where that's part of the program, whether they're doing undergraduate or graduate studies at McGill in social work, nursing, physiotherapy, medicine, whatever the case is. They need to have a certain level of English to be permitted to do their internship. So the program that we're talking about certainly brings them to that level and a little bit beyond. That's what I wanted to add.
If I may draw your attention to a few topics that we discussed prior to this video conference. One topic was that many words, a lot of terminology may be clear to you and not clear to our audience. Before our video break, you addressed, you have named two of the organizations, professional associations in Canada or in Quebec that give medical professional certification so that they can practice the medical healthcare professions, right? It is important to emphasize for our audience that in Canada in general, or in Quebec in particular, the province of Quebec is part of Canada. It is the professional associations that after passing an exam, give someone a certificate of, I guess, eligibility to work in this medical profession. Because in many other countries, it's the Ministry of Health, it's a centralized organism that gives certificates. Or in other countries, it could be university. University graduates you and university gives you a certificate. I find this system a bit murky, but in many countries it's like this. And that leads me to a topic of our previous discussion. How well is Canadian context embedded into your program?
Mm-hmm. Can I just say a couple words and then I'm going to let Effie and Julia talk. I think it's ideal for students who are coming from other places who would like to know more, not only about using English in medical situations, but also the medical system in Canada, because it was created within that context. Our subject matter experts are medical professionals practicing in the province of Quebec. And the other part that I would add is that there are two components, the online component and the virtual remote component. The online component is standalone, it's ready to go. The virtual component, the remotely delivered portion of the course, because it's delivered live with a teacher, it's the perfect forum for people who are coming from outside of the context who might not understand all the terminology that's specific to Quebec, to ask and to get feedback from the instructor, and for the instructor to customize or tailor the topics of conversation to make that context clear for people who are coming from outside. And I'll let Effie and or Julia comment on that because they have experience doing just this.
I would like to add something, and then Julia could even add more to that because she's more familiar with all the sections. When in the online course, we created a component that's at work that Julia just talked about in her video. And in the at work section, we had people, as I mentioned before, from the Order of Nurses and the Order of Social Work that were there telling us exactly what was and wasn't permissible and what was accurate and what wasn't, especially in the Quebec and Canadian context. So yes, that part is embedded in all the at-work videos that we created that were on site in hospitals or in offices of social workers or at other healthcare facilities. So we do address that. Julia, maybe you can give us some examples. The only thing I'm thinking of now is, and it's not even a cultural example, but I remember we were shooting something once for one of the social services scenes, and we had the social worker sitting in the back of the room, sort of in the corner. And the real social worker that was there said, we would never do that in the Canadian context. We would never have the social worker be confined in one section of the room, because if the patient turned violent, then the social worker would have no escape. So that was one example of how we had to change our scenario to conform to what the actual practices were. Now, I'm sure there are many cultural examples. I just can't think of any right now, but Julie, I'll pass it over to you.
Yeah, that's a very good example, Effie. Thanks for sharing that. I just wanted to share the guiding principles for the conversation course. We are guided by the situated learning theory, and that is a theory whose principles are basically to promote authentic opportunities in the classroom, so that the content is meaningful and purposeful for the actual students in the class. And what makes this program especially good, if I might add, is that the instructor is really very perceptive as to what the needs of the students in the class are. And this is also done through a needs assessment right at the start of the course, the getting to know the students, the background, and so on. Now, that being said, the medical field is a very large field. I mean, with so many branches and so many different professions and allied professionals within that category. So it's very difficult sometimes to really, answer every individual need. But there is a real effort on the part of the instructors to really hone in on what exactly the student is hoping to gain from the conversation course. The online course is very clear, it's established. Some of the material is also recycled in the conversation course if there are some questions or a need to have further explanation. But in fairness, the conversation course is really tailored. And so we talk about ethics, for example. We bring in scenarios that happen in the workplace. These are things that are what make the conversation course what it is. So I'm not sure if I'm clear in my explanation, but it is really based on modeling, coaching, and scaffolding so that learners can recreate and build on the knowledge that they already have. So I'm going to say it one more time. We're not in any way nurses, doctors, physiotherapists, occupational therapists. That we are not.
You're much more than this.
But the language is really key, and we need to understand what the language needs are. And I think that our group of instructors really have developed a sensitivity to that and an expertise as well. So I'm very proud of our group of teachers as well.
Agreed. I would definitely emphasize that, and to just pick up on this, what the situated learning aspect is a learner-centered methodology, which means that what the learner brings, what the learner knows, what the learner needs is what drives the entire class. And I think that could be perfect for the needs that you're talking about, because learners would be invited to draw comparisons between healthcare settings that they're familiar with and healthcare settings in Canada. And together with their classmates and with the instructor, they would explore what those differences are. And through that exploration, the learning happens. And
then if I can get a summary of what we talked about during the past hour. Your program is, it's an award-winning program. We have to emphasize this. And it caters to the needs of healthcare professionals of all kinds, not just physicians, but also, as you mentioned, frontline administrators, which is someone who is a medical receptionist, answers the phone calls, all the way to physicians, nurses and physicians, right? Social workers as well. And if I understood correctly, your program is highly customizable in a sense that you actually, it's an interactive exchange between you and your students. And if students bring additional experience, you're happy to integrate this into the program. So you can tailor to different needs, to different audiences. And for the past 6 years, you've been actually doing what everyone is, trying to implement right now, remote, online, remote classes. So you don't need to adjust this for, say, for the sake of Kazakhstan or neighboring countries, because it already existed. It was already in place. And I would like to emphasize this as a program that offers a lot also about cultural context in Canada. So it will be useful not just for people who will plan to go to McGill. They could go to University of Toronto. They could go to University of British Columbia or some other universities or smaller schools. And that will actually, if I understand correctly, that program will help them to feel much more familiar with the environment. So that would be my summary. If you would like to add a couple of words, just to summarize your program, so that would be also interesting and appreciated.
I just want to thank you, Nurlan, for this opportunity to talk about our program to a wider audience. Everyone is welcome. Our program starts at an elementary level, so if somebody doesn't speak English at all, it still works for them. And it goes all the way up to the advanced level. So as Julia said, it's for allied health professionals as well. So physiotherapists, occupational therapists. It's tailored for specific needs of different professional groups. And we look forward to seeing some of
having new faces.
Yes, yes, that'll be wonderful. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Nurlan. That was very nice of you to help us showcase this program. Thank you.
I thank you, all three of you, for your time, and I hope that we'll have questions and requests from our colleagues over there, and that I imagine if we would have some follow-up questions, would you be willing to have some sort of a brief answering of the questions, perhaps when the video will be played, embedded in the actual video, people would have questions, like actual questions on the.
Of course,
absolutely.
We welcome any questions and any chance to talk about this program that we are so proud of and love so much.
Excellent. And before, okay, we're officially done with the video conference. Would it be possible that I have a follow-up conversation for 5 minutes? I will send a separate link. But thank you so much. And thank you for the organizers of this video conference, because as I said, the hostesses were not available today for the various reasons. And I will send a quick link to Zoom through McGill, and then we'll just follow up chat. Thank you. So I'll talk to you.
Okay, I have another meeting to attend, so I'm going to let Effie and Julia.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you. Okay.
Take care.